call this meeting to order. Welcome one, welcome all, and Happy New Year to everybody. And once again, welcome. And Mr. Dehaney, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, the first briefing from the first session back from break would be from the Atlantic Avenue Task Force. If council recalls, council convened this task force to provide options on how best to address the Atlantic Avenue improvement project. And the task force has been meeting dutifully for several meetings, and this is where they're coming forward with their recommendations and their suggestions for your consideration. The next voice you'll hear will probably be Julie, and she'll kick off the presentation, followed by co-chair Mike Mouch.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'm Julie Brenman with Fountainworks, and happy to be here to talk about the Atlantic Avenue Task Force. As the manager just said, as a reminder, the council passed a resolution to establish the Atlantic Avenue Task Force to develop recommendations for council. Actually, I'm looking at this. I think it wasn't actually a council resolution. It was a mayor task force. So I apologize. I've read this so many times. I forgot that. So this is a mayor's task force, but the purpose of the task force was to look at how to allocate the $30 to $35 million in capital improvement funds for the Atlantic Avenue capital improvements, looking specifically at the appearance, so things like facade, art, and decorative elements of Atlantic Avenue, looking at mobility and safety, those are sidewalks and transportation issues, and looking specifically at on-street parking on Atlantic Avenue itself. The council, the mayor's task force also was charged with looking at how to allocate funding across the different sections of Atlantic Avenue, breaking it up into three sections: North Beach, 25th to 40th Street, Central Beach, 17th to 24th Street, and South Beach, 5th to 17th Street. So the question in terms of how to allocate was, do we want to do a little bit of something everywhere? Do we want to concentrate something in different parts of Atlantic Avenue? So the task force was asked to look at all of those things. The members that were appointed to the task force, several of them are here today. A few had conflicts, but if I can get those in the audience to raise your hand and wave. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your dedication to the task force. Mike Mouch is also here with me. He'll be presenting the task force's recommendations. And of the 7 members on the first meeting, they voted and elected Mike Mouch and Bill Gambrell as co-chairs. And Bill is one of the people that had an unavoidable conflict today, so he's not here. Vice Mayor Wilson and Councilmember Remick served as city council liaisons, and they were at almost every meeting of the task force. In addition to the task force members, we had a tremendous amount of support from city staff. Not everyone was at every meeting, but most of these people were at most of the meetings. So we wanted to highlight that there is a lot of interest and support in the task force recommendations. They served as subject matter experts and were able to answer a lot of questions and provide details and do some research to answer the task force questions. I'll note we listed Clay Dills on this page. He's clearly not city staff, but we invited him to one of our meetings to do a presentation, and it was a sort of aha moment for the task force members, so we wanted to acknowledge his presence. Fountainworks, me and my team served as neutral facilitators for the meetings to make sure that we provided support and everyone was able to share their concerns openly and no one dominated. The task force met 5 times between July and November for a total of 20 hours per person. So that's a lot of time dedicated to this and recognition of the importance of these decisions. You can see the schedule of how and when we met, and we are here today at the presentation to council. We used human-centered design as a framework in the beginning of the task force to ensure that different perspectives were represented on the task force. So at the first meeting, we asked task force members to put on the hat. If you were a member of council, if you were city staff, if you were a resident visitor, a tourist visitor, a hotelier, restaurateur, retailer, what are their different perspectives and what are their interests in Atlantic Avenue? What do they want out of the renovations, the capital improvements on Atlantic Avenue? In addition, we asked all of the task force members to bring their own selves to the meetings. They all were appointed because they represent important constituencies for Atlantic Avenue. We also provided a number of opportunities for the task force members to bring in statements or resolutions or just share thoughts from their respective organizations. So there were a lot of opportunities to share their own perspectives, their organizational perspectives, as well as think about the people that come to Atlantic Avenue as visitors and residents. We did go on a tour of Atlantic Avenue. These are a few snapshots from the tour. We had staff design the tour to look at a number of different key points, whether it was some things that are kind of hidden. The bottom right of this slide shows some hidden bad electrical wiring in some of the light posts. It also let the task force members see the differences between the north, central, and south sections of Atlantic Avenue. A lot of the task force members spend a lot of time at Atlantic Avenue, but most of them said they saw things on this tour that they didn't notice. If you don't go looking for some of the issues, you don't notice them day to day. So the tour was a helpful way to frame and highlight some of the differences between the different sections of Atlantic Avenue. And some of us look at the ground while we're walking, but a lot of the issues are on the ground, and you might not be looking at the ground all the time. So the tour was an important piece of the task force work. So with that as background, the task force set a vision for what they wanted to accomplish as a task force. And you can see on the screen, they set a vision for Atlantic Avenue, as well as a vision for the task force. Their vision for Atlantic Avenue is that they want Atlantic Avenue to be a unique, memorable destination for visitors and residents alike. They want a clean, safe, attractive, and revitalized Atlantic Avenue. They want it to be easy to navigate for all. So that means the people that are there all the time, as well as the visitors. And they want Atlantic Avenue to be economically vibrant with increased business year-round, so not just a summer destination. The vision for the task force itself for their work was to get consensus on the recommendations and take timely action on the recommendations. There was a lot of discussion about how many years the city of Virginia Beach has been working on a new plan for updating Atlantic Avenue, and the task force's most important philosophy in their vision is they want to see action taken and movement going forward. They don't want this to be another set of recommendations that sits on a shelf, but they would like the funding to get spent and the Atlantic Avenue improvements to be made. They also asked, they set a goal for consensus on on-street parking. Going into the task force meetings, we knew that on-street parking was going to be one of the most contentious issues, and it ended up being one of the most contentious issues, but their goal was to come to consensus on what their recommendations should be. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the co-chair, Mike Mutch, to walk through the recommendations.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Chair, Madam Vice Mayor, and Council, I want to thank you for entrusting us with taking these responsibilities to allocate and give recommendations on how to allocate the funding for Atlantic Avenue. Atlantic Avenue, as we all know, is one of our largest economic drivers for our city. And I'm going to go back a couple of slides just for everybody to see the amount of city staff, high-level city staff that was in every single meeting that we did. And I think for the task force members, this showed how important this was to you guys to get this right. So we took our job very seriously, and we tried to get to as much of a consensus and trying to utilize the funding sources as best as possible. So with that, I'm going to move into the recommendations. So within the $30 to $35 million budget, we had prioritized what we thought was going to be best to allocate towards. So road striping, milling and overlay, and parking. As we all know, parking is going to be one of the most contentious points of this. And out of the 7 members that we had 6 that voted unanimously, voted for this project to move forward as we're presenting it. Sidewalks and crosswalks to be redone with some raised crosswalks, wayfinding and placemaking, and this one's going to be big, I think, as we move forward in the presentation. I want to put in a real emphasis on this wayfinding and placemaking. Lighting, landscaping, and the Atlantic Avenue facade grant improvement. So we wanted to make sure that it was uniform up and down Atlantic Avenue so that everything would look very similar and that every portion of Atlantic Avenue would look the same, and we've tried to allocate the funding as needed. What we did is we kind of prioritized where we thought that the biggest need was, and we tried to move forward from there. So we wanted to prioritize the Central Beach. That is where the bulk of the pedestrian traffic is. That's where the largest conglomeration of people goes to. And so that one was a number one priority because of the aesthetics in that area, and some of the deferred maintenance that we've lacked on is most needed in that area. So South Beach was the second priority, and then North Beach has had quite a bit of improvement, and so that needed less of a priority, but it still is going to have quite a significant improvements as we move forward with this. So again, seeking uniformity across all of Atlantic Avenue was our goal. We wanted to invest in a wow factor, so and that really putting an emphasis on art, and I will get into that in just a little bit. The facade grant improvement, and that one is so that we can have private investment as well as public investment. So the city's taking a large step in really reinvesting back into the public infrastructure and the aesthetics of Atlantic Avenue. And what the hope is that the private sector will follow suit and really enhance their properties as well. And this could be a jump start to help that. And then to pursue other non-capital improvements, and that can be done by a little bit more of enforcement and a focus on certain things. So again, for the full Atlantic Avenue, these are going to be the things that we have prioritized to do across the board. Within the uniformity, we would establish bike lanes going on the east side of Atlantic Avenue, going north and south. And what that does is that really dictated what we could do with the rest of the space through Resort Area Strategic Action Plan, through the Resort Area Mobility Plan, and through all of the public input sessions that we've done in the past over the years. And I say years, I think we did RACEAP starting in 2017, I believe. And so it's gone from 2017 to today, in 2026 now, that we've really been trying to find a way to improve Atlantic Avenue. Bike lanes always bubbled up to the top of every public input session, every survey that we did. It was always number one. So the community said that there was a desire for bike lanes. So what that does is once we've realized that the bike lanes needed to go on Atlantic Avenue, then we could really design around what the rest of it is. Atlantic Avenue needs a full milling and overlay of pavement. just to bring it up to a current standard. There will be raised crosswalks in key sections. What that does is allow for a little bit of traffic calming and give an understanding of more of a pedestrian area, so that the traffic can slow down and people feel more comfortable walking around. So we need to clean and repair the sidewalks. A lot of the sidewalks are in patchwork, have been repaired, but we really need to go through and put new sidewalks down, specifically in Central and in South Beach. So implementing wayfinding and placemaking, this is going to be a fun topic that we can get into, and I'll get into that again just a little bit later, but this is a way to identify where you are, where you need to go, and really we can start to brand ourselves. We don't have up until recently, we haven't had even the flags that said Virginia Beach on them. They were just flags with colors. So branding our city so that when people walk up and down the ocean front, it just ingrains in their head that Virginia Beach, and it's a fun place, and hopefully they'll go and tell their friends. Creating a uniform lighting standard. So what we have is we've really upgraded a lot of the lighting down at the oceanfront. South Beach still has the amber lights, so we are looking for upgraded lights in South Beach, but all up and down is to make sure that the lighting on Atlantic Avenue is uniform and looks really nice. And then implementing enhanced landscaping where possible. Landscaping is something that we struggle with down there. The salt air, the wind, there's not many things that can grow in the planter boxes that we have. So right now we currently have shrubs that have been trimmed up into small trees because the area that they can grow in for a small root system doesn't allow for something more hardy to grow in there. So we've been working with what we've had and in the constraints that we've had for the landscaping, and there's an opportunity now with doing sidewalk repairs and electrical that we can open up those boxes, make them a little bit bigger, and put some more appropriate landscaping in there to allow for a better aesthetics. In Central Beach, 17th to 24th Street, this is an area that we have, I think everybody understands, needs the most help. So on Atlantic Avenue, this is where everybody really comes down, and the pedestrian area of that is packed sometimes. And we want to make sure that this has the biggest emphasis on the aesthetics and has the biggest wow factor. So we're doing the milling and overlay, replacing the sidewalks, we're doing the enhanced lighting and electrical, enhanced landscaping, raised crosswalks, wayfinding, and adding a wow factor. The wow factor is an extra push for art down there. We're very fortunate to have Kate Pittman from the Vibe District as a part of our task force. It was a perfect element to have to show us what could be. I mean, when we walk around the Vibe, you really feel that you're in a specific place. And so she helped guide the conversation when it came to wayfinding and placemaking and the wow factor. So going through, and I'm going to hit on those specific things again and go a little bit more in depth. But this is going to be a brief overview of each area. Central Beach, 17th to 24th Street is also going to activate, and this is the big idea that we came up with, and the vision that we think will help propel Virginia Beach to be into another standard. And so what we want to do is bump out and put into where now the trolley lane is what we call micro-commerce areas. And I know that sounds weird, but think parklets. Think of an area that has permitted entertainment. So these micro-commerce zones would allow for cafe franchises to move out, and so that their customers could sit on a raised platform that would be tastefully done. Think of places like Montreal, and I wish we had better visuals for it, In the top right-hand side, if you see, there's a rendering of something that could be. This is not necessarily what we want, but this was an inspirational picture that was given to us to give us an understanding of how it could be. Outdoor cafes, the businesses that are directly in front of it would have first right of refusal to go and do something out there. And if there were some areas that needed space or needed something to activate that area, we would try and fill it with Live on Atlantic. We have a wonderful busking community down there, and busking, for those who don't know, is people who go out and show their talents, whether it's making balloon animals, whether it's making art with metal, whether it is playing an instrument. So I think this gives an opportunity now to embrace the creative community that we have in this city, and give them a space to show their talent. And so in the Central Beach area, there would be no on-street parking. Some of the concerns that have been raised are where is trucks going to pull in and do their deliveries. So this is just a mock-up of where these micro-commerce zones, which would be like parklets, would go. It would allow for the drainage to still remain. These would be raised, and it would be the same level as the sidewalk, so it would be flawless to just walk right off the sidewalk onto these micro-commerce areas. And then there would be clear zones for safety concerns, with being able to see visually from a vehicle and being able to take left or right-hand turns. But also there would be empty space that would allow for the HRT, the trolleys, to go and drop off and pick people up. It would allow for deliveries, and this could provide a wonderful opportunity for our businesses to flourish and for it to be really active. So moving forward, we have South Beach, and this was our second priority. In South Beach, we want to retain year-round parking. So from 5th to 16th Street, you would be able to park on street on the west side of Atlantic all year round, with the bike lane being on the east side, going north and south. This was, again, going back to the parking, this was a compromise. Some people wanted no parking at all. Some people wanted parking everywhere. And we felt as though this was the most appropriate place. Again, we had all of the people in the room to help us make these decisions where it's most appropriate and where it wasn't. And so parking seemed to be one of the best area to be able to allow for on-street parking year-round would be in that 16th to 5th Street. Now, I would hope that with the $50 voucher that you guys have brought up, that this would be an area where our residents would be able to come in and use that voucher to be able to park and utilize our wonderful oceanfront. There would be some restrictions, evening restrictions, and any time that it was deemed necessary that the police department for special events and anything else would have the option to kind of pull that up with proper signage and understanding that it's for certain events. In our South Beach, we're going to do the milling and overlay, replace the sidewalks and the enhanced lighting and electrical. North Beach has the infrastructure in place. Central Beach, and this is for the electrical. Central Beach has a lot of upgrades, but it's not to the standard where it needs to be. And South Beach, it needs the most help when it comes to lighting and electrical and the infrastructure that's underneath. So that would be a full pull-up of all of the sidewalks and replacing all of the electrical. And unfortunately, a lot of the cost goes towards this just because it's so intensive. Enhanced landscaping, we did that across the board. That's going to beautify our beach substantially. Raise crosswalks and wayfinding, and again, that wow factor with public art. North Beach, When we walked Atlantic Avenue, we realized that North Beach was in pretty good shape. There was some things that was low-hanging fruit that we could really kind of clean up, but for the most part, North Beach has done a wonderful job of really reinventing itself from the private side, as well as with that reinventing of itself has allowed for our infrastructure to improve as well through those improvements on the private side. So we did, because of the constraints of the public right-of-way, from 24th Street or at 25th Street, it narrows down. We lose one lane of traffic, 25th Street north. So understanding that there's a garage on 38th Street that's going up, the 25th Street garage and the 31st Street garage, we had given the recommendation that there be no on-street parking. And again, that goes back to the bike lanes. The bike lanes are going to take up a full lane to allow for that number one concern from the citizens to have biking down there. So the parking spaces would not be able to be used in the season or off season in North Beach. So there would be no on-street parking. So this is, again, just a snapshot of what we just went over of what's going to be there. So I want to get into the wayfinding and placemaking. Our vision for Atlantic Avenue was to make it attractive, memorable, and easily navigable. And we wanted to implement wayfinding through all the sections. There would be a $100,000 allocation for a wow factor, and that would be in the form of public art. And we wanted to prioritize the public-private art partnerships in there. There's been so many things considered through this that we have a real opportunity to bridge a gap with our community and really make Atlantic Avenue feel like home for the people who live here, not just the people that are down there. And I think that was one of the most important things that we wanted to do, is find a way to make sure that people west of Pacific felt the same as the people east of Pacific. And so we would love to be able to partner with the Virginia Beach school system to get local art from our students and be able to place them on the utility boxes and all around anywhere. And again, think of the Vibe District and how they've done it. If you've seen their utility boxes, they're wrapped in vinyl and beautiful art on it. What a better way to get our community to come down and see what their children have put on these utility boxes and up and down Atlantic Avenue where we can put it anywhere and everywhere. It would create a very community-based environment to be able to have our children's artwork as well as local artists down there doing things. So we've taken a lot of the Vibe District's methods, and hopefully we can utilize them here on Atlantic Avenue. Let's see, I think we'll go on to the next one. So I do want to briefly hit on some of the other things that we had when it came to the milling and overlay. You all understand what that is. We're going to repave the road and restripe it and make everything look uniform and appropriate. The sidewalks and crosswalks, they're going to remain where they currently are. So we're not pushing any sidewalks out. We're not pulling any sidewalks in. We're just going to redo them to make everything look clean and the same up and down Atlantic Avenue. The lighting, we want to make sure that lighting is all uniform up and down. We've got amber lights south of, I think, 15th Street, and we have LEDs north of it. So we're just trying to pull everything back in to look the same. The landscaping, again, I want to hit the landscaping because I think this is an opportunity that we have while digging up the sidewalks and replacing them. We've got an opportunity to open up the planter boxes to put new, nice, vibrant plants down there. as opposed to the shrubs that we have. So I'll go back to the contingencies in the budget. So we understand that we were working within a budget that was constrained once we came back with the understanding that Atlantic Avenue was going to cost $100+ million to do it the way that the resort area mobility plan had asked for it to be done. There was just no way that we could do that with the amount of money that was allocated towards it. So we were not numbers people. We were given numbers, and these numbers were loosely based off of what we think or what staff thinks it would cost. But as you all know, with the fluctuation in pricing for everything at this moment, it still hasn't stabilized quite the way that everybody wants to. So we came up with a contingency budget for the priorities. If additional funds remain in the CIP after implementation, then we could further the enhanced landscaping, prioritizing Central Beach and South Beach, and then we can enhance the landscaping in phases. Install new light fixtures in North Beach, and then if the funds were insufficient to implement everything that we were looking to do, we can reduce the amount of raised intersections, and if needed, we could phase in the electrical and the sidewalk replacements in South Beach. But again, that's where it's most needed, and so hopefully we could find a way to make those things work. And then utilize the annual mill and overlay CIP funds if we can. We do think that the milling and overlay should be a part of the general obligations that the city does just for any street. So if possible, then we could utilize the funds from the city for that and keep it out of the CIP that we're utilizing for Atlantic Avenue. The Atlantic Avenue Facade Improvement Grant Program, we were fortunate enough to be able to have economic development create a program for Atlantic Avenue and fund it. And I can let economic development speak further on the ins and outs of how this looks, but I believe it is going to be going live next week. So they've already got the parameters in which they want to do it. And as you see here, it would be matching grants of $10,000 to $25,000, and it'll be performance-based. And then the eligibility would be anywhere from 2nd Street to 40th Street, and that would be also wrapping around the corner of each block to the properties that are on Atlantic Avenue. And the improvements have to be visible from the Atlantic Avenue right-of-way. And if there's further questions about that, we have staff here to answer those. So non-capital improvements, items that we had discussed that weren't necessarily within what we were asked to, but we thought it would be important to just point out is provide sufficient resources to enforce regulations. We were very fortunate that this body created a resolution about the profanity and obscene T-shirts that were in the windows. Thank you guys so much. That was a catalyst on starting what has now become a big thing for Atlantic Avenue. It's really cleaned it up, and then putting an emphasis on code enforcement down there has significantly cleaned it up. And I want to give a shout out to the private sector as well. A lot of these businesses rent from some realty companies or whatever, and they are now implementing within their private contracts that they're not able to have lewd or obscene merchandise in view of the public. So it was all because of the resolution that you guys passed unanimously that really started this. So this was a true public-private partnership that did not cost a dime. And that's going to enhance our oceanfront significantly in the future, and it already has. Invest in adequate maintenance funds. We just want to make sure that maintenance doesn't get deferred, and I think we've all seen what can happen when deferred maintenance happens. So this is where we are today. Address quality of life issues and provide services for those in distress. So our city is, in my opinion, one of the best cities in dealing with and working with and helping out our unhoused population. And I think we just wanted to put this here to make an emphasis to say that continue these programs to help the unhoused and make sure that we can get the mental help and support needed for these individuals that are out there. And thank you. What you guys have been doing is wonderful, and it's far above what a lot of localities do. Continue allocating space for permitted activities, and this kind of goes back to the buskers. Right now, we don't have a program for them to show their talents. So if there's an opportunity here that we can take and create some sort of a program to allow for our creative community to be as creative as they want in areas that are designated to be creative. Reinvest the microcommerce zones revenues back into the TIP fund. So as those spaces get rented out or leased out, we would love for the opportunity to have that go back into the TIP fund, and then hold exploratory conversations with HRT about the trolley. So as we're changing the streetscape of Atlantic Avenue, we want to continue to have the conversation with HRT to make sure that the need and the use is still appropriate for what it is. Should we keep the larger buses? Should we, scale them down a little bit? What's most appropriate for it? Is there new technology out there that we could utilize, or try to work with HRT to be a pilot program to see how it works for them? So just continued conversations to see what's most appropriate down there given the landscape change. So the recommendations. We want to make sure that tourism continues to be a strong economic driver for our city. We want it to remain safe, accessible, and unique, to continue to attract visitors, and so that we can be economically vibrant down there. The Atlantic Avenue Task Force recognizes the need for proactively addressing emerging infrastructure demands and preserve Atlantic Avenue's role as a premier destination for residents and visitors alike. We want to make sure that we really get the buy-in from the community. Our biggest advocate should not be the money that we spend outside of our area to bring people here. It should be our people. They would bring us a bigger return on investment than any advertising dollars ever could. So we want to make sure that it's someplace that our community wants to come down to and feels comfortable coming down to. Significant time and resources have been invested into making these recommendations going back to 2017 all the way to where we are today. And these recommendations have strong support. So we would urge you to take action. And we would love to move forward with this capital improvement project. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions? Okay, we're going to go with Worth and then Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. Ms. Brenneman, and Mr. Marsh, thank you so much for all the time. There's a lot of time on this. So I've got 4 items I'll go through fairly quickly. On page 8 on the vision, because I really want to make this a point, because you say consensus twice. And, 14.1 million visitors visit the oceanfront every year, 2.8 billion, over 3 billion in direct and indirect money spent, 34,000 jobs, $360 million in taxes, state and local. It's a huge, huge economic engine in and of itself. So when you say consensus here, there are a lot of folks who are participating in all of that. So I think this does a good job taking consensus. And also, this vote was 6-1 only on the parking issue, but 7-0 on everything else. I think that's
Yes, sir.
the case. So I just want to make that this is a consensus amongst a lot of different stakeholders. Secondly, utility markings, when we did the tour, when you go down and walk, so I just want to make that mention, this task force could not necessarily address utility markings, which really do mess up the sidewalks badly. And so there is, in our legislative package in Richmond, General Assembly to take this issue up. So this task force could not address utility markings. The micro-commerce area, we talked about that. That's a part of this plan. I think we do need some more discussion and vetting of that. And one concern, for example, that I have is that if a business is there and they don't want to have a bump out or a micro-commerce out in front and someone else does that block or inhibit that 12 months of the year business? And so we just need to have some more discussion, I think, on that. And then lastly, but probably most importantly, price. I saw 30 to 35 million. Julie, is it 35 million? That's the estimate, including contingency? And that money is from the TIP fund, which I would argue should be maybe general fund because it's not a project, but I think we're going to lose that argument. But this would come out of the TIP fund. But Julie, is it?
It's the TIP fund. I think it's $35 million that the council has allocated to it. It's $35 million, and it's TIP funded.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Stacy.
Thank you so much for the presentation. A lot of work shows. So I just have a couple of questions and an observation. One is, Julie, you started off by saying that you knew that the point of contention was going to be the on-street parking. Can you elaborate on what the rub is there?
As your neutral.
That's not a softball.
Yeah,
Actually, that's
no, yeah, as your neutral facilitator, many of the merchants, mostly on the western side of Atlantic Avenue, want the on-street parking. The hoteliers, mostly on the eastern side of Atlantic Avenue, have parking already for their businesses, their hotels. And so the concern is having easy access to the businesses on the western side of Atlantic Avenue, and concern that if there isn't parking right up front, that they might lose some business.
Julie,
That-
go ahead.
You're here, so I'll let you, Mr. Manager.
So, Julia, were you also going to acknowledge the public safety, police, and fire department concerns with parking?
Yeah, so the public safety, police and fire department and EMS have concerns with parking. It presents problems for access to businesses. So for the fire department, for example, if there's a lot of on-street parking, it's hard to get to the business if they're not able to get close up. For the police department, there are problems with unruly, unlawful activity, particularly in the evenings. And they have said if there's on-street parking, it's very easy for people to hide contraband or weapons in their car, or easy to get away. So public safety has concerns about on-street parking as well.
So I'm assuming, though, that where you're recommending on-street parking, that's been vetted by the police and fire, and they've signed off on it.
I think I wouldn't say that they agreed, right? If the fire chief and the police chief got to manage the city would look totally different, right? What are you saying? so I think this is a compromise, right? No one's happy. The Hotel Association compromise, the retailers and the restaurants on Atlantic Avenue compromise, and there's still a request for more compromise. And I think the police department, the EMS department, the fire department, they're in a medium of acceptance of the reality, and they'll manage around it.
Then I'd also like to address the micro-commerce zones. And one thing and this might be getting a little bit into the weeds or maybe out of the purview of what you were asked to do, but if we are to have these micro-commerce zones, and I know that Councilman Remick had said that we need to explore this a little further, my hard recommendation would be that those zones would only be offered to retailers whose establishments were 100% in compliance with city standards And because if they're not, we don't want them bringing their problems from their storefront to the sidewalk. So we want to make sure that it's only offered to people that, to businesses that are in compliance and operating within city codes.
And that came up at the task force, and they would agree with you on that. And I think there would need to be a plan developed for how to operate the micro-commerce zones, and it would have to come back to council. The task force wanted to present the concept and move forward with the concept so that staff could then build out that program.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer, Michael, and Josh.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the task force for all the work that you put into this. Growing up, I just know so many people growing up here, but so many people would love to feel something more at the oceanfront. When you go to Virginia Beach and you're just standing there and walking around. So I would love to see some of these updates and these upgrades. I'm just curious about the raised crosswalks. If you can just help me understand the emphasis on raised crosswalks as compared to just cleaner lines across the street. Why? What is the raised crosswalk, and what is that a public safety thing? Is that what is that?
So the raised crosswalks give an emphasis on pedestrian. So it allows for traffic calming. So when there is a bunch of pedestrians in one area, when a vehicle has to go over a raised crosswalk, they understand that they're in a pedestrian area. So it slows traffic down. It makes it a little bit safer. And it puts more of an emphasis on that pedestrian as opposed to vehicular.
And Michael and Josh.
Well, I just would share everyone's consideration of the work that the task force has been engaged in, and my appreciation for it. So I'll begin there, as others have. I have some observations and then maybe a question. I think this is really good because this conversation came out of a plan that concentrated this investment. Maybe you touched on that, but I don't remember that being as emphasized that much as part of this presentation. Going back maybe a year or however long ago, there was a plan in place that just concentrated this investment into Central Beach. And what it did was it left out the investment in the other areas. And so while Central Beach would have been very nice, we weren't really sure we had a pathway to what the north and the south would be available for investment there. So I think distributing it more equally across Atlantic Avenue is a great way to be really great stewards of the resources that are available. And I think spread that improvement in a very impactful way. And I think you've been very creative based on what I've seen with some of the approaches that the task force has contemplated, including and especially public art, and what that does for an area. And to Councilmember Rouse's point, the kind of excitement and the feel that you get, the placemaking that you get with that, having the vibe involved, I think is a great asset to your effort. So I want to take the chance to compliment the vibe and the entire vibe team and bringing that energy to this initiative, which I think is they know our community. They are tried and true and tested in terms of what works for placemaking and creative expression in public spaces, and they've been leaders, internationally recognized leaders in that. So I think it's very, very good that they're involved in this. And you're doing some things that I think really, you're talking about doing some things that I think really brings Virginia Beach into a very strong position to remain a competitive destination and a very welcoming place for residents. And I think also that's, to Councilmember Rouse's point, those of us, there's a lot of Virginia Beach west of Pacific, as you mentioned, and the people who, all of us pretty much, are included in that. And we want to be welcome and enjoy our oceanfront as well. And I think some of the things that you're contemplating really do help to make it more welcoming for residents. I think even you talk about partnership with schools or public art, if you participate in something creative there, families will go and visit that and experience it and see it, and it makes it more, there's a deeper investment for all of us, because it is our resort, it is our oceanfront. And I think that a lot of the approaches here help to build that and strengthen that bond. I want to note, and especially call out the photo opportunities that you talked about, because a lot of great destinations around the country are employing those. And I think that can be very, very fun for people to participate in. It also helps with branding. I mean, you go to a lot of places and you see whatever it is, right? It could be VB or whatever, and they take their pictures and they post it. And also they have a good time doing it, and it becomes people's holiday cards, and it goes on their shelves from their family vacations forever. So I think that's really good and exciting, and helps to, I think, humanize the experience of visiting the Virginia Beach oceanfront. So there's a lot of good things there. Having said all that, I share some concerns. Maybe I just don't know enough about the micro commerce zones. All the things that have been said, and especially what Councilmember Cummings pointed out about being in compliance and sort of good operators. I don't know how you exactly enforce what is a good operator and what's not. Those are my words, but that's something that definitely should be thought of. And then I'm also thinking of those COVID bump outs that a lot of cities did and how they aged.
Right.
And maybe you've already talked about that as a task force and it's been on your mind, but I don't necessarily see it as a good investment, because I've been to other cities far and nearby that have continued to utilize those bump outs. I'm calling them bump outs, and they look tired.
I would agree with you, and I think this was one of the hardest challenges about this presentation, was getting people to understand what this micro commerce area was, and so I like to refer to it as more of a parklet, like a linear park. And yes, I think the idea of a COVID bump out is probably the worst thing that we can put in our head.
That's where mine went.
And I completely understand that. We have some localities around us that still have some, and they are tired. This would be completely different than that, and it would be uniform wherever they are. The city, you guys would be the ones that would be implementing the actual stages and areas for these micro commerce zones to be, and it would have full electrical, and once we did all the upgrades, everything would be seamless right into it. And one really good thing about it is that they are a permanent yet temporary thing. So instead of pushing out the sidewalks, if we see that these are extremely efficient in bringing vibrancy into an area, then we have the ability to do it further. Or if we see that it's working extremely well in one area, but the other ones are a little bit not as active as what we're looking for, then we have the opportunity to do something a little bit different in those areas and maybe enhance the areas that it's working well in. So I think
the rendering doesn't do you a lot of justice.
I know.
If you try to avoid the COVID bump out analogy.
Right. I think
but that's fine. We one step at a time.
Montreal has a really good, if you get an opportunity in between briefs to look at what Montreal has done. It's more of a very intense community feeling, as opposed to this is just thrown out there. It's well put together, and it's done in a way that was purposeful, and I think that's the vision that we would like to see, is a purposeful cafe, linear park, parklet area.
And is your one of your recommendations that 100% of the revenue generated inside those areas goes to tip?
No, it would be the rental of it, just like the cafe franchises. The cafe franchise, when somebody
Not the other revenue generated, because that was
right.
Okay, I misunderstood that.
It'd be the lease of it would go back into it to hopefully repurpose and keep that deferred maintenance from being deferred.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go Josh and Hutch.
Thank you, Mayor.
And Amelia.
Mike, Julie, thank you very, very much and for everybody who worked on this. Thank you all very much for the work and many months of work. and revisiting it, and I thought you did a great job. You know, I went somewhere cold over break. It wasn't as cold as Montreal, but when people said, "Oh, hey, where are you from?" I said Virginia Beach, and everybody was like, "Lucky you." and it's stuff like this that helps make us all feel like we're living on vacation, live like we're on vacation because we live here, but also helps put our best foot forward to visitors and guests who we want to have them come back, obviously, and enjoy themselves. So on the bump outs in those areas, I would love to see, and I was excited to see the enhanced landscaping as an idea. Even I think safety by environmental design principles would be really good to employ here. You know, big planters to make sure that people in those areas are safe, but also have it be aesthetically pleasing. Other kind of tactics like that, I guess, to make it nice looking, but also safe for the people who are in those places. Greening it up in general, public art and those partnerships, I was really happy to see. And really what I liked about some of the original plan as it was laid out is Atlantic Avenue is kind of like a drag strip, and any opportunity that we can to make it a nonlinear feel where you add a little bit of visual interest and you're not just looking straight down the street, I think it'll slow traffic down, much like the elevated crosswalks, like what you're talking about, but also just give it more visual appeal, make it feel busier and more aesthetically pleasing. And the facade improvement grants, I'm glad that we're going to keep doing. I was and the manager, are those only for resort area, or do we do facade improvement grants for other commercial corridors in the city?
We do it for other commercial corridors in the area. In the reconciliation budget, City Council carved out a specific portion of EDIP funding for Atlantic Avenue, but there's still the overall citywide facade improvement grant program.
Great, and I want to make sure that was said out loud because we do have aging storefronts, not just on Atlantic Avenue, but everywhere, and that those are available for people. So thank you very much.
We're going to go Hutch Amelia.
So obviously, what everybody said, kudos to the hard work. We appreciate it from everybody. It was obviously well thought out. A little bit of the public safety part, but before I get there, I have been fortunate enough to go to some other countries and see the bump outs all over. I've seen where they've been fantastic, and then some of them do show some age, but as the Councilman Berlucci was saying, but I also think just like the artwork, if at some point we're going to have to update the artwork, we'll have to update the folks there. You know what I mean? Like either you got to do a little better or we got to move on. You know what I mean? Or we're just like we're going to have to repaint a painting that's sitting on the side of a wall at our oceanfront with the beating it's going to take. So I think that's just part of our business model that we're going to have to stay on top of for that part. To what Councilwoman Rouse was asking, like I'm thinking in my head, like 31st Street when you're coming out of the Hilton side and the Park side, that's where a raised traffic in my public safety mind would be, is right, because you've got so many people that are coming out and exiting. You really want to slow things down. So unless we're going to have PD do some traffic control there, I think that's what y'all are kind of thinking is what I'm sort of asking.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me. If we could get the money to put one over going to Murphy's, I think that'd be another place. I'm just saying. Just my 2 cents. I'm just my 2 cents. Anyway, so now from some practical stuff though and as somebody that has grown up maybe once or twice going a little over the speed limit down Atlantic in a Firebird back in the day, but that was a long time ago, and it is different. And I'm thrilled that we're doing this kind of stuff. Okay, that it's going to really make it nice. I mean, I really think it's going to be awesome. But when you're bringing a 35-ton ladder truck or the engine, and it won't always be the tiller. You know what I mean? We have to put other trucks down there. They're coming from different parts of the city. You start narrowing things, and you start causing us problems like the bike lane. As long as the bike lane is going to be open so that traffic can divert, you know, as we're coming with the lights and sirens. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I hope that that is in there that the two chiefs agreed to. The other thing is, and not that it happens all the time, saying that up front, but when the ladder's got to go up, the overhead lighting is beautiful. I know, I love it when I see it places, right? But if you put it so tight that you can't get that ladder up, they're not going to wait. They're going to go right through it. Right. So we're going to be replacing that. So, and I would agree that's what they got to do. I can say that a lot easier now because I don't have to answer to you. But you know what I mean is when it's burning or when you're trying to do something, or if you just got an elevator, there's all kinds of reasons. It doesn't have to be a horrible call that they're going to put the bucket up or the stick, and that's where it's going to get into something. So we just got to factor that in, that there could be the cost of doing business, which is fine, but we have to know that that's part of business.
Yeah, we discussed the overhead lighting specifically, and that was something that, if you want to go back to, there we go. This was more so the inspirational picture for
but I like
the
it.
thought process is. I don't think that there was any consensus from public safety at all about having overhead.
And I haven't even talked to them about it, so that just tells you.
I do know that was that. It's like you had talked with him because it was the exact same words.
Well,
so.
I mean, you can't help it. I mean, I know y'all, like, we had the one fire at 26th Street that Councilman Worth was at for a while. I know we all think about that one, and of course that one we're going to do what we got to do, but there are lots of other times that nobody here would even think about, that 3 a.m. we might be doing something, you know, so that's where my head is at. And that's not all the time. I'm not trying to say that, but it does happen.
So just the inspirational picture on top had the overhead lighting, and we heard loud and clear from public safety that would be problematic. It also had the little soft bollards by the bike lane.
Yeah.
The lower picture is more realistic, but a little less inspirational because it's just pragmatic. So it shows a buffer between the bike lanes, so there don't need to be even those soft bollards.
Yeah.
So that gives public safety access on the eastern side in those bike lanes.
Well, and just for the public watching that, if you look at that 17th to 24th Street, so the green car and the red car, like if there's cars in those other bikes, they have nowhere to go, right? So they just pull over and stop. Well, if the other lane pulls over and stops, now you've got stop traffic and you're trying to get through it. So you want the bus and the other car to come to the right, obviously not on top of the cyclist, as being one of them. That's important to me. But you do want them when it's safe to get over. So, you know, it's just those things that we have to factor in. That is going to happen 6 or 7 times a day down there.
Right.
So, you know, that's just what you got to know.
Yeah, and we were very fortunate to have public safety at the table.
Yeah. Well, that was smart.
Every single meeting, and they shared their same concerns. And again, they did say that they would take the direction from council to city manager and implement however it needed to be, and they would make it as safe as they're able to. And
all for it. I just want us to have, I don't want to have our heads in the sand as far as what could be going on. That's all I'm at.
Public safety has been on top of it since the very first second they saw it. So.
Thank you.
Amelia.
Again, thank you so much for this presentation. I did have to ask, when you mentioned the uniformity,
Yes, ma'am.
and then I look at this picture up here where the bikes are going on one side, are there restrictions between e-bikes and regular bikes? Along there?
I think that's a whole different topic and you have an e-bike task force that's looking at that. I believe your public safety laws currently allow e-bikes to go anywhere bikes can go. But your e-bike task force will be looking at if there need to be some restrictions.
Right, because I was thinking for safety. Also, with the little places that you have. As we mentioned, we have the seniors and silver tsunami. And so you
Why'd you
have,
look at me when you said that?
we're all there. But I looked at him because he mentioned it first. Down the road. And so we've got to look at that population coming down there. Some may not be able to do all the walking. If you go to Singapore, India, they have these little mini, I don't know if you've seen them. They have like a one person that can drive and have people up on the top or right behind them. So that way, for those who are handicapped or anything, to also have access, because a lot of families, as we have a family-oriented area, will bring grandma or bring some other family. We don't want to leave them just over to the side.
Right.
So to consider, especially if they want to come and have tea or coffee along there, an easy way for them to get there. Maybe having something small like that. The other thing I noticed you mentioned about the trolley. What are you doing to implement that there?
If you want to go. So there will be zones that are open. Am I going the right way? There we go. So there will be open areas for the trolley to pull in, to be able to pick people up, drop people off, as well as deliveries and emergency vehicles to get right up next to the businesses and be at least close enough, much closer than parking in the right of way where people are driving.
Yes, because the people love having the trolley.
Yeah.
I'm glad you implemented, that into, and also from the arts, from the placing. And Kate Pittman, again, is excellent at that. But it would be nice if you all had a theme, like a beach theme or something, so we don't have just any old, because then it makes it jump.
Right.
So you want to make sure, since you're doing uniformity around that area, you want it to look clean, pristine, artwork, emphasis that. And she's open. I mean, I've worked with her a long time. We're about to put a mural up on for kids in Chesapeake through our organization. So just stressing that, so whoever she brings in understand what the theme is and how things look. But thank you for the work you're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Work.
So if I could quickly follow up on the theme and ask the city manager to ask the Resort Management Office, Bill Kelly, to send out the new branding flags and program that we have. It was presented to the Resort Advisory Commission RAC back in, I think, November or December, kind of as a part of this, but I think the rest of us, because I think that's going to be up in April or so, or May, probably by May, but maybe send that out to as a part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I could add something, we understand today's challenges, and we also understand that the visitor chooses where they want to go differently than they used to 30 years ago. We've always been a family beach, and that's what we want to remain. A lot of people choose to go somewhere because of the experience. And so I believe that trying something different and trying something new down there, especially with these micro-commerce areas, is going to give an experience that people will want to come to. And it's a good selling point for our city. Again, that needs to be done very intentionally and done in a way that it's going to be most appropriate for the business we want to bring down here, but not just for the people that we want to bring into our city, but for the locals that come and visit as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we wanted to create a vision for the future.
That's important, and I'm glad I've served also with Councilman Remick on that advertising advisory,
Yes.
because with what they bring through also impact what all you're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Michael. Thank you, Mayor, and I'll make this comment very quick. It was addressed in here, and I think someone else brought it up again, but I really want to take a point, take a moment on this. The utility markings. We're constrained by state law about how the city can regulate or influence the utility companies and how they perform and maintain their markings. You've heard me say this, many of you have heard me say this before. Some of those sidewalks look fully like Jackson Pollock paintings.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating just to walk down there, and I think Mr. Remick mentioned that as you walk along, you can't walk any stretch of Atlantic Avenue and miss it. Yeah. And so I would like to know more, not now, but as we move forward in this process, and this is a public infrastructure that's paid for and maintained by the people of the city of Virginia Beach. And I understand the utility companies have their reasons. I understand the utility companies have a job to do and it involves safety, and I respect all that. But I would like to know more about what level of investment will occur in renovating, revitalizing the sidewalks. Are they going to be fully done? Is it going to be brick pavers? Is it going to be concrete? And I don't need to know all this now, but I mean, it's just incomprehensible to me that the city would spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars on public infrastructure like that and make it look beautiful. And then it's effectively graffiti. And with a purpose, it's better than some of the other graffiti. The purpose is better than some of the other graffiti I see out there, but it's something we need to, I really want to emphasize that point in this setting because it's very serious. It's part of our legislative request. The utility companies are very powerful and very influential in Richmond. They consistently ignore the request. I hope that they will take an opportunity to hear us loud and clear and try to find a way to work with us to protect our public infrastructure.
I agree with you 100%. And that unfortunately wasn't something that we looked at, but it is something that we saw. And we see it every day. It is one of the worst things that we can't do anything about down there. So any effort by our legislative bodies to help us out there would be significant to creating the aesthetics that we're looking for. Thank you.
I wanted to add to that point one thought that Kate Pittman brought to the task force when this was discussed. How do we get people not seeing all the dirt on the ground? And she said, lift people's eyes with the art. So if you have art and attractive things to look at eye level, people aren't going to be noticing the Jackson Pollocks on the ground. So you still want to address them, but that's a way you can do it within your means.
I mean, I have seen, recently restored and renovated and repaired stretches of sidewalk that the public invested a lot of money into, and then here they come, painting it up, and it stays there for years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before I get to Rosemary to close out, let me just make a comment. I think this was a very fruitful conversation, that we had all. And, let me put it this way. We take a lot of prudent advice from, the task force that we put together, because we have the people that the stakeholders are actually part of the conversation. The people that live and have their businesses there are the ones that are coming up making, those fruitful recommendations to us. But I really see this as a real opportunity for the city, because I think our goal that, once again, I think Worth pointed out the economic impact of what goes on at the oceanfront. We found out early in COVID that, when the oceanfront is not clicking on all cylinders, it really affects everybody in this city. But once again, that we were able to kind of tread water and come back strong. And we have, a $3.5 billion economic impact. But once again, the idea of making the city a year-round destination, but not only for our tourists, but for the people of Virginia Beach. Mm-hmm. And me being the district guy for 14 years, how many times I hear, love to go to the oceanfront, but boy, parking's a hassle and, things of that nature. But, thanks to Rosemary Resident, program that we got going, we're aggressively, doing that. But when you think about the potential, the possibilities, the vision of the Sports Center, Convention Center, Vibe District, Atlantic Park now, Rudy Loop coming. But now all of a sudden, we just start working up Atlantic Avenue to create those possibilities. I just think that, this is what we really need, because if we're going to go into a year-round destination, I'll tell you what, that is going to be a boom to the local economy. And, we're going to need that added revenue. Can you imagine getting rid of the shoulder in winter season? But once again, giving it a place, the destination where people want to come and feel welcome. And, I think we're doing that. Rosemary, please close out.
I think it's very interesting that we're having this discussion, especially today, because everybody may not know this, but the New York Times just listed us as one of the top 50 places to visit this year. That's a big deal. Isn't that
That's a
exciting?
big deal. Need to capture that.
So we gotta get spruced up, and get ready for it. Mike, you did a fantastic job on the presentation, and Julie, we can always count on you. Thank you so much, but great job, Mike. I want to talk about the task force just for a little bit. First of all, they worked really, really hard, and there were a lot of different ideas coming in, and Worth and I knew that there were gonna be a few bones of contention. But people really kind of came together to come together to have a great report. On this list, I just wanted to say it's not, I don't think it's quite definitive of, for example, it's got Harshad, he's City Chamber of Commerce, but he was also hotelier, so we had 2 hoteliers on there. Atlantic Avenue, it's got Deepak Nagnani, but there were really 3 people from the Atlantic Avenue Association, not just one. Everybody on there is a member of RAC. Restaurant Association, it was more than Mike. You also had Bill Gambrell. And so just want to make sure that there was a lot of people representing more than just one section. So I thought that was really important to say. The discussion's been really great. Hutch, we did talk a lot about public safety, and we really think I kind of like that light stringing across. We want people to come and feel like they're on holiday, but I think there's ways to get around it, like maybe they can be unplugged, and pulled across.
Or just not every street, you know what I mean?
No.
Do some areas.
You don't want it on every street. That kind of takes away the wow factor. But there's got to be ways that we can kind of work around, whether you unplug it, and if the worst comes to worst, we get a string of lights broken down.
Right through.
It's, you know,
Sorry.
I think we can replace a string of lights if we
Yeah,
have to.
that's why they give you guys big axes to break stuff.
But we think that there's ways to get around it, but, and I appreciate your public safety hat, I really do. And we love our public safety, and we want to make sure everybody is safe. Stacy, you raised some valid concerns, just like happened in the thing. Worth and I, we talked about this ahead of time, and he mentioned it. We don't want to prolong this. We really want to get on. As you saw, this has been going on for 9 years, essentially. Let's get on with it. Let's get this done, and maybe we can start work on it next fall and get a lot of this work done next winter, so next summer some of this can be done. But we would like to have just one more meeting to talk a little bit more about the bump outs, the micro commerce, just sort of some of the questions that we really need to have those answered. I think just a little bit more definitive. So if we could quickly pull everybody together with, at the pleasure of the task force, if you wouldn't mind, just have one more meeting and sort of vet just a little bit more, so I think some of the questions people have, we'll have a better feeling of it, and then bring it to the council. Mr. Dehaney, does this have to be voted on?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I don't necessarily know if it has to be voted on. On the back end, the last comment, it seemed like they wanted us to adopt something, a resolution. I was going to make an amendment, Vice Mayor. I think the task force should, as you requested, should have another meeting to talk about the bump outs. But I think unless there's like a significant material change, we can communicate whatever is communicated with the micro commerce unit areas to council in a package, like in a memo. And then after that, if there's no adverse reaction to it, then we can possibly work on bringing forward a resolution to kind of codify some of the findings from this thing in a resolution. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know if there's a need for another briefing. If there's going to be minor adjustments or no adjustments.
I don't see anything major happening. I don't know where. No. But we really need to get on with it. Mm-hmm. 9 years is a long time, and the country's coming. We need to get ready for them. So everybody did just an absolutely fantastic job. Really appreciate all the comments. And Josh, thank you for bringing forth that resolution about the T-shirts and all of that. I was a little skeptic. I said, okay, they're not going to do anything. And look at the results that it had. Thank you for doing that. So this council has worked so well together, and I appreciate everyone at this table for what you've done. And we just have one more meeting, Julie.
Yeah, we serve at the pleasure of you guys, and if you guys wanted us to have another meeting specifically about the micro-commerce, is that what I'm hearing? And what it's going to look like, how it's going to be kind of loosely implemented. We could work with city staff to see what the parameters may be, and then bring
Yeah,
back.
I think you just need to have it defined it a little bit more. And Stacy, you're so right. Having these little parklets, I think we could control them a lot more than what's there now. Because right now, people bring stuff and put it all on the sidewalks, and then we fine them or they have to go to court by the time this court summer's over. And we've had a lot of problems with that, and the General Assembly has helped us with it, even though we've asked them to. But this may help. These little parklets might help with that problem that we've had. But I think we just need to tighten it up a little bit more, and so we have a better idea. If you wouldn't mind doing that, but great job. Oh, one other thing. Parking is increased. Right now, parking is only off-season. So what's being recommended is year-round down the south end. So that is an improvement on the parking as well. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody.
73 spaces.
Yeah, 73 spaces that will be year-round, which are only there in off-season now. So that's a big deal too. Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, I wanted to just clarify, if the task force meets again, it would just be limited to the micro-commerce. We would ask them not to revisit any of their other recommendations. It would just be clarifying the micro-commerce.
Let's go ahead and do that, and then all you have to do is during council comments, just give us a quick briefing about what was done, and let's move forward with this. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Good job.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, folks. Good stuff. All right.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, the next presentation will give City Council an overview of the next items that will be coming to you on for consideration at your forthcoming council meetings relating to planning items. Try to.
No, thank you.
You got it. Okay, let's go ahead. We got to get to close.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'm here this afternoon to go over the planning items on your January 20th agenda. There are a total of 11 items for consideration. Looking first at item 1, this is a conditional rezoning request for property located at 2597 Leroy Road. This is just southwest of Princess Anne Middle School in District 2. The applicant intends to rezone this 5-acre parcel to conditional R10 in order to create 4 single-family lots, resulting in a density of 0.79 units per acre. The site currently contains a vacant single-family dwelling and lies within the transition area. In addition to satisfying the density requirements for the transition area, the 3.18 acres of open space exceed the 50% minimum open space recommended in the transition area design guidelines. Additionally, right-of-way improvements, including curb and gutter and sidewalk, will be installed along Leroy Road with the development of the first lot. The pictures on the slide here are representative of the home styles proposed with this request. They include materials such as vinyl and cementitious siding, brick, and stone. This was presented to the Transition Area Interfacility Traffic Area Citizens Advisory Committee back in October, and the committee did vote to support the request. We have not received any opposition, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by consent. Item 2 is another conditional rezoning request, this one for 722 Newtown Road in District 4. The site is currently split zoned B1 and conditional B1 and is developed with a Chinese community center. The applicant is requesting to rezone the site, which is just under 2 acres, to conditional A18 in order to construct 18 multifamily dwellings, which equates to approximately 9.6 units per acre. The proposed units will be split across 5 two-story buildings with a 2-car garage and 2-car driveway provided for each unit. The 45% lot coverage is within the threshold permitted within the A18 district. An 11-foot wide side path will be installed along the entire frontage of the site in accordance with the active transportation plan. Due to the residentially zoned parcels to the south and east, a 15-foot wide Category 4 landscape buffer is required along those property lines. However, the applicant is requesting a deviation to the landscaping requirement just along the southern property line, which is outlined in red on the slide there, and instead intends to install a 6-foot-tall privacy fence. This is to allow a small backyard for each of those units along the southern portion of the site. The images on the slide here show the proposed materials and color scheme for the units, as well as the proposed privacy fence and sign for the development. We have not received any opposition to this request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by consent. Correct. The next 2 items are a conditional rezoning request and a conditional use permit for property located along First Colonial Road within District 6. The applicant seeks to rezone the 2-acre site to conditional B2 for the development of a self-storage facility. This property lies within the 70 to 75 decibel noise zone, as well as the Suburban Focus Area 5, which is the First Colonial Road medical corridor. The medical office building currently on the site is proposed to be demolished with this request. The proposed development includes a 3-story, 150,000 square foot self-storage facility with a small parking lot between the building and First Colonial Road, as well as a loading zone along the side. The self-storage facility has been designed to resemble an office building with a primarily brick facade in shades of brown and cream, and a combination of real and faux storefront windows along all sides of the building. The facility will have a maximum height of 35 feet. Staff has not received any opposition to this request, and while
Did you have a question?
staff does recognize and appreciate the thoughtful building design, which does not look like your standard self-storage facility, staff is recommending denial of this request due to incompatibility with the recommendations found in the comp plan specific to the First Colonial Medical Corridor, which calls for priority to be given to uses that complement medical and healthcare activities.
Okay, Worth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask staff to put in our package the original application? Because I think this was changed in the Planning Commission, so if I could, the original site plan and building specs. Thank you.
So as you just mentioned, following the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant did revise the proffered concept plan to address comments received from staff and the Planning Commission. So this included revisions to the entrance to provide a standard commercial entrance as required by the Public Works Design Standards Manual, reducing the amount of parking that's provided along the front, which in turn provided additional green space along the front. And then as recommended by the Planning Commission, the plan was updated to show possible future connections from the parking areas on this site to the properties both to the north and south. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval by a vote of 9-1, and we will get you that information with your package. The next item is a conditional use permit request for a home occupation at 1492 Back Bay Landing Road in District 2. The applicant intends to perform small parts repair within a 200 square foot portion of an existing detached garage on the site. There will be no customer interactions, as all parts will be shipped either to or from the site. As required by the ordinance, less than 20% of the total floor area of the home and accessory structures will be dedicated to this home occupation use. We have not received any opposition to the request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by consent. Item 6 is a conditional use permit request for an open-air market for 1136 Lynn Haven Parkway. This is to allow the continued operation of a food truck on the site. This is within District 3. The applicant operates a coffee shop food truck within the parking lot on Tuesdays through Saturdays from 7:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. The primary structure on this site is used for a commercial kennel, which is a by right use in the B2 district and is not the subject of this application. A zoning complaint was issued for the operation of the food truck since there was no active peddler's permit or a CUP for the use. Upon receiving that violation, the applicant promptly filed this application, which is before you today. There is adequate parking on site to accommodate both the commercial kennel use, the food truck, and that is excluding the 3 spaces that is occupied by the food truck itself. I will note that a portion of the site does lie within the APZ2, in which this use would not be considered compatible, so that's above that red dashed line on the site, but the food truck is located outside of that area, so there is no issue with compatibility or compliance with Article 18. We have not received any opposition to this request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by a 9-0 vote with 1 abstention. Item 7 is another conditional use permit request. This is for a bulk storage yard at 525 Viking Drive. This is in District 3. The bulk storage yard will be used for the storage of materials associated with the landscaping business, so including such things as pavers, plants, and equipment. The site lies within the greater than 75 decibel noise zone, as well as the accident potential zone 2, and this use is compatible with both. As seen on the concept plan on the slide, the bulk storage yard is limited to the western half of the property. The existing building, which is shown in gray there, will be used by the company for their office space. In addition to the screening requirements around the entire storage yard, the applicant has included the retention of a 40-foot wide treed buffer along Lynn Haven Parkway to further screen the site. The applicant has requested to be able to use an alternative parking surface, so using gravel instead of a hard surface, which staff was amenable to. We just added a condition to require edge treatment along the bulk storage yard to keep the gravel contained. We have not received any opposition to this request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval on consent. Item 8 is a request for alternative compliance to allow for the operation of a temporary commercial parking lot at 2400 and 2402 Pacific Avenue in District 6. I do want to note that since this presentation was put together, we have received an updated concept plan, so you should have a copy of that at your seat. This property is located within the Oceanfront Resort District. However, it is not located in an area that permits temporary commercial parking lots, and therefore the approval of an alternative compliance by City Council is required before the use can commence. The applicant intends to demolish the existing vacant 7-Eleven on the site and repave the site to create a commercial parking lot with 30 spaces. This will include a mix of spaces, so regular, compact, and motorcycle spaces. The existing landscaping on the site will be retained, with additional landscaping to be added where needed. Access to the lot will be from 24th Street, and the existing access point on Pacific Avenue is proposed to be closed with this request. Staff is recommending a condition to limit the approval to 3 years, which is consistent with the requirements for temporary commercial parking lots within the form-based code. This item is scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission at their January 14th hearing next week.
Stacy?
Just the use of this lot, is it for the iFly complex, or is this going to be a pay for parking?
They told us it would be a combination, so use for iFly, but also the opportunity to do public parking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question, really quick. Yeah, they own this property or purchased the property? Is that?
I believe so. I can confirm. Right.
All right, so they're under contract? Okay, I got you.
Item 9 is a conditional use permit request for a short-term rental at 919 Pacific Avenue, Unit B in District 5. This is a 1-bedroom unit within the Pacific Place condominiums. There are 33 previously approved conditional use permits for STR use on the site, and I'm sure you're all familiar, but there's 1 parking space required and provided on site with Pacific Place. We don't have any associated zoning complaints or documented stays relevant to this unit, and this was recommended for approval by Planning Commission on their consent agenda. Item 10 is another CUP request for an STR, this one for property located at 215 4th Street, again in District 5. This is a 3-bedroom unit in the Windward Way condominiums. 2 of the required parking spaces are provided on site, and the applicant has submitted an intent to lease off-street parking for a space within the 9th Street Municipal Parking Garage And as you can see in the image on the slide there, that is just over 0.3 of a mile driving distance from the unit. While there was one previous zoning complaint associated with this unit for the operation without a CUP, staff at that time was unable to substantiate that claim. Although the site is not currently advertised, there was a documented stay as recently as August of 2025. We have not received any opposition, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by consent. And then the final item on the agenda for the 20th is an ordinance to adopt and incorporate into the Virginia Beach Comprehensive Plan the Park System Needs Assessment and Development Strategy. This was briefed to this body back in December, so I'm not going to go through all of the specifics again, but I will just say that should this be adopted into the current comprehensive plan, it is the intention to carry forward into the updated plan when that is adopted. Mayor, that concludes my briefing, and I'll stand by for any additional questions.
Any questions at all?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we got to get into close pretty soon. Any liaison reports? Rosemary? Okay. Work?
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, in your last Friday package, you got a 2025 towing amendment to City Code, City Council staff report from the city manager. I am liaison to the Towing Advisory Board, and this is a request from the Towing Advisory Board. I know this may not have been read or understood, so it is a request. It is an ordinance request for the January 20th formal session. So right now we need 2 other sponsors other than me. I believe, no, other sponsors are not needed. Okay, so it's going to come on. Please ask me if you have any questions, but it makes sense. Police tows are more difficult. It could be cleanup. It could be cars mangled or whatnot. So it's a little bit more involved with a tow versus towing a car that's in the wrong spot. So look at the memo. It should be self-explanatory, especially the first page. And I'd ask for you all to please consider it.
Okay. Anybody else on liaison? Mary?
Yes, I have a couple of things that I've written down. I'm liaison along with Councilmember Lucci for the Arts and Humanities. So the Arts Humanity Project grant is now open and due February 6th. These grants fund art projects, performances at our schools, theater, and out in the community, as well as art exhibits, acclaimed speakers, and workshops. Also, the second round of the Creative Neighborhood Grants are open and due right around the corner, January 16th. This program is open to all of our civic leagues, nonprofits, or businesses to create community art projects that beautify public spaces, celebrate local culture, and engage residents in the artistic process. Also, some of you may have gotten to go to it. I did go with my granddaughter, the Nutcracker Matinee on December 14th, and it was packed. It went very well. The only complaints were the kids were running out of popcorn. So that we heard about that. And wanted to share 2 more items. Brian and Tricia Rogerson, they're parents of Mark Rogerson. He received his Wings of Gold as a naval aviator and flying F-18s. So at church, we're able to bless the little wings in there and wish him well. He will be stationed at Lemoore, California, and I told him don't stay there too long so he can come back because he was from Virginia. Last couple of things, the HRT, we had a very good meeting, and I want to thank Patrick Terheny for sending someone from the staff to do with the traffic of people getting to their employees that they felt we had cut back on the Route 33 and so forth. So we met with the Virginia Beach Hotel Association and also the HRT, and they were able to come to some consensus for looking at everything and moving forward. So it was a positive meeting. I am very excited about that vet outpatient hospital that's coming in right off Northampton Boulevard and the outlet. So it's going to bring about 600 high-paying jobs in Burton Station, and that's along District 4. And the last fun thing was last night on the town. We had about 5,500. I actually stayed out all the way till about 12:30 to watch the ball drop down. And you were there as well. We took some pictures, and someone won a roulette for $10,000. It was more a game, and they gave her a bottle of champagne and a gift certificate. So everyone really enjoyed it, and there was no incidents. So I want to thank Jeannie Evans Cox and all those in Town Center, especially the Central Business District Associations, for putting off another great show. And they thank us for supporting them to bring Perry, the band Perry. People came from all over to come and listen to them. So it was really good, and I'm glad we supported this. And that's it.
Okay, Joshua, liaison?
I'm sorry, I thought it was announcements. So,
Okay,
go ahead.
any other liaison?
Councilman Schulman and I are liaison for the auditor. And the deputy city auditor has retired, and our city auditor, Lyndon, has asked that instead of replacing that position, which pays in that neighborhood of $130,000, that position be split into two, one with an auditor one position paying about $54,000, and the other with a lesser position, auditor investigative position, that would pay about $40,000. So the two combined would be less even when you consider the benefits package. So both Councilman Schulman and I support that. I spoke with the mayor yesterday, also in support. So we'd like to, if there's not a reason for not allowing that to happen, we'd like to see that move forward.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll work with the auditor's office and the city attorney's office, and we'll work together on an ordinance to bring forward for consideration if there's no opposition.
Okay, great.
And I have one more.
Yeah.
And then, as a part of the current year budget, the Process Improvement Commission was tasked with the project of trying to find ways of having more efficiency in the city budget. And so they've done that. They've done a very good job. Again, Councilman Schulman and I are liaison to that commission. They've worked very hard, and they've presented, I believe everyone received the package, received their results in the package. But we would like for them to be able to come forward in next week's meeting and make a presentation on what they're recommending.
Yeah, I told my response to that. Okay, wearing my Atlantic Park hat, chair hat, a little quick housekeeping thing, if you could do this. There's been a public interest in expanding the Rosemary's Oceanfront Residential Park rebate parking to both the Baltic and 20th Street going forward. And, back when we decided that, the garages were not operational. And there's some other information there, but just in general, they weren't online at the time. But the other thing is now we got new restaurants and business and everything. And then, once again, we just want to create that wonderful opportunity to have our public come and, take advantage of the residential program. So if there's no opposition, I'd like to ask the city manager and Rosemary, if it's okay with you, to work in expanding those two garages into the program.
And as long as no one objects, we don't have to vote on this. The staff can just do it
Yeah,
administratively.
just include it in the plan.
Yep, so,
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, so this is just informational and, hey, listen, there's going to be some growing pains, with the magnitude and complexity of the project there. And I think this is, another way of just improving the, communications and, getting up and give it the opportunity to become successful. Okay, Michael, you had something for?
Not a liaison report,
No,
just council comments.
nobody for
Yes, sir, Mayor. I have two things, well, three. I just really quickly, I want to just follow up on what Councilmember Ross Hammond said about the project grants and the creative, specifically though, the creative neighborhood grants through Arts and Humanities. That application is due on January 16th. You can learn more about it by going to the website and going to our Cultural Affairs Department's website. The amazing, incredible things are happening through the Creative Neighborhood Grants. It's grants up to $10,000 that are driven by neighborhoods working with artists and arts organizations. And I'm just seeing whole civic leagues and neighborhoods coming together around a shared purpose of making their neighborhood more beautiful and more creative and better connected. And it's really, really outstanding. And it's a good program, and I hope that lots of neighborhoods all across the city take advantage of it. And then on a more serious note, I just would like to make some comments, Mayor, about the proliferation of graffiti targeted at various groups and constituencies and communities across our city. First, before the Christmas holiday, there was graffiti in the Vibe Creative District that was targeting the LGBTQ community, anti-gay messages were sprawled across public infrastructure. And then more recently, I think today or yesterday, there was anti-Semitic graffiti discovered off of Dam Neck Road. And I say two things about this. The first, and I feel very strongly about this, it is very disappointing and it is frustrating to see any person targeted because of who they are is one of the most objectionable things I think that a person can do. And I'm sorry to see it on public infrastructure that the citizens of Virginia Beach own, operate, and maintain. We as a community deserve better than that. And I don't want to overstate it. It's likely that it's young people, and young people make mistakes and do stupid things sometimes, and sometimes older people do too. It's just frustrating. It's just disappointing to see. But as equally as disappointing as it is to see, I also am comforted to know that these actions do not reflect the vast majority of the people who live and work and visit Virginia Beach. This is an incredible community of people who love each other, who respect each other, who are connected as neighbors, and who do celebrate differences and don't condemn them. Having said that, I just want to note a couple of things. As I said, it's frustrating to see, but what's also inspiring is the dedication and the responsiveness of city employees. Our Public Works Department has just immediately addresses these instances when they present themselves. I personally saw the Public Works Department working hours past their shift to remove graffiti that was in the Vibe Creative District. And any graffiti is bad, but graffiti that's discriminatory, that targets people because of who they are, is really bad, and it needs to come up and it needs to be addressed. And I'm just really, really happy to see the way that our professional staff, and I really credit them, and I credit you, Mr. Duhaney, with setting the tone for what would not be accepted within the city of Virginia Beach. And then I also want to compliment and thank our police department, who I know are investigating and tracking these instances across the city. We know it's not a reflection of who we are, but it needs to be addressed. These instances cannot go without us speaking to them. Just as Mr. Duhaney has set a tone within the city organization, I think it's incumbent upon us as elected city council members to set a tone about the type of community that we want to live in and that we aspire to be. And it doesn't involve hateful graffiti messages. So every time it happens, we need to address it in the ways that the city has, and also in a unified fashion condemn those actions. So I just wanted to say a word about that, mostly to thank and to express my appreciation for the efforts that the city, the police department, and our public works folks, professionals have done. And just think about that, the holidays. They want to get home, it's cold, and they're outside with power washers. And I hope the people, I'm sure they're not watching, but I hope the people who do these acts think of those people that have to respond in those ways the men in this case who are spending hours during the holidays past their shift cleaning up their mess. Doesn't matter what it says. They were impacted families across the city. That's just one aspect of their impact. So it's just something to think about. But then on a much happier note, I'd like to introduce Taysir. Taysir, if you'd just stand up for a minute. Taysir is doing an internship with my office. I'm very lucky to have him. He's a District 3 resident, and he's a senior at the Kempsville High School Center for Entrepreneurship and Business. He had a meeting with Mr. Lohman today to analyze traffic calming. So if you found that interesting, you're in the right place.
About a baptism of fire. Oh, Lord.
You're definitely in the right place if you enjoyed that. And he's just a really very, very smart and very capable,
Of course,
promising.
he went to Kempsville.
Young, what'd you say?
I said, of course, he's going to Kempsville.
Yeah, young emerging leader. And so you'll see him around for the rest of the month. His internship will end in February, but he made it past the first couple months successfully, and I just wanted to welcome him and recognize him. Thanks, Taysir.
I think you're Stacy.
Speaking of traffic calming, we have a neighborhood in the Kings Grant area. On that, there's a road called Smith Lane. It's a very unique situation. This road is about a half a mile long, 0.6 miles. It's perfectly straight. On one side of the road, it's a very narrow road. It's for two vehicles to pass at the same time, which is problematic. On one side of the road is a ditch, and not a very steep ditch. On the other side of the road are people's front yards, their mailboxes, children's swing sets. On this road, there are 16 houses. The children from those houses have to walk down this road every single day to get to the bus stop, which is not on Smith Lane. They have to navigate the entire length of Smith Lane to get to the bus stop. They've been through the traffic calming process twice. And in neither event did they meet the technical aspects of the traffic calming program. However, keep in mind there are 16 houses on this road, and in both traffic calming studies that were done, the traffic count per day was between 500 and 750 vehicles a day. This is a cut through from the Little Neck area to the Kings Grant area of 500 to 750 vehicles a day with only 16 houses on this road. So that there are no sidewalks, there's no alternatives for the children to get to where they need to go. The city staff, including the city manager and the director of public works, have examined the situation, and we're all in agreement that this community deserves a traffic calming, the program to be implemented. It does not meet the technical requirements because there's only 16 houses, but this is the exception that proves the rule. And I know there would be concern about, well, if we do it here, maybe we're going to have to do it elsewhere. Well, maybe we need to look at other places if they meet these kind of criteria. So this is a pretty extreme situation. So I'm going to be asking for support to have an ordinance to put this community into the traffic calming program so that they can address the situation and make it a safe situation for the residents. There's 16 houses, 14 of the 16 people have all signed. The other two, the owners of those properties cannot be located after an exhaustive search, but overwhelming support for this. And so I'm going to bring that forward and ask that we get the support to include them.
Yeah, no, just go ahead and put it on.
Great, thank you.
If I could just comment on that, I really think that, we've been talking about this stuff at Lord Denmore ever since I got on city council, and it never raised to the level of quote criteria. I think we got to take a serious look at our criteria.
And Mr. Mayor, if the council recalls, and as part of your focus action plan, this was specifically aligned
that you all asked to add at the last retreat. You asked us to look not just at the quantitative data when it comes to assessing traffic calming, but also look at the qualitative and lived experience of residents as we look towards addressing traffic calming. So this could be the first iteration into that while we look at the policy overall.
Let's go ahead and do that moving forward. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, who's next? Amelia?
I just have two little congratulatory remarks. As you know, MOCA is going to be moving over to Wesleyan, so they are having a farewell party Saturday from 4 to 7. And I think it's important for us to know. I hope some of you can come over and see what they're doing. We're excited that they're still including us as council people, even though they're moving over to District 4. But that's a good announcement. The other congratulations go to that new program that we have, the Civic 101 Academy. I'm sure some of you have seen that. And it's going to include a lot about, because our people need to understand what it takes to be here on council, to understand all the, intricacies of it, and many don't. Just see the outside and assume. But having that, I think you have 20 people going through it, and one of them who's been through the first session was real excited to see staff coming out to present to them. So that's a new step we're taking and an important step. So I want to congratulate us as a city for doing it.
Hey, anybody else at this point? Josh, let's do things and wrap it up, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to join in support. I'm wondering if, as part of those criteria, we take into account, hopefully, factors like there's no sidewalk. It's a really narrow street. There's only a ditch to dive in case you're in trouble, those kinds of things. I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Berlucci and to our public work staff and the manager. And those workers stayed late, not because it was their job to do it, it's because they didn't want to leave until that nasty filth was cleaned up off our streets. So, and just speaking as a member of our Jewish community, I can tell you how frightening it is, how hurtful it is, and just how bewildering it is to just think about people hating you for no reason other than just who you are. And I know that's not what this city is all about. And I want to say thank you to the entire council for always showing up to spread love in the face of hate. And then just lastly, Mayor, the mayor and I were up on Little Creek, joint expeditionary base, Little Creek Fort Story this morning, and they opened a new child, or broke ground on a new child development center, ages 0 to 5, to take care of our military families and their kids while their families are out defending our country and earning their livelihoods. 300 kids will be served there, 120 new jobs. So and it'll be a beautiful facility.
Okay, and just to wrap it up, over the break, we had a menorah lighting at the Cavalier Beach Club. And it was a tremendous outpouring of love and solidarity. Michael spoke some very powerful words, from the heart. Mr. Dehaney, there was a very strong police presence there that was appreciated by the people. Okay, how about agenda review?
Well,
Oh, okay.
there
Did you have?
are no speakers. Does anybody need anything pulled, or can everything go on?
For me, everything goes consent.
That's it.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.23711A Code of Virginia, as amended for the following purposes: legal matters, consultation with legal counsel, briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefings in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body pursuant to section 2.23711A And the first is VDOT Holland Road undertaking claim. And the other thing is Shelby Moyer versus Calvin Sykes, City of Virginia Beach. Then on to publicly held property discussions or considerations of acquisition of real property for public purpose or the disposition of publicly held property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A3, and that would be District 2. And then public contract, discussion or award of public contract involving expenditures, public funds, and discussions of the terms and scope of such contract where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A29, and that's the workforce housing grant application, personnel matters, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation from the specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A1, and that's for council boards, commissions, committees, authorities, agencies, and appointees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Councilor Berluci?
Yes.
Councilor Cummings?
Aye.
Councilor Henley? Councilor Hutchison?
Aye.
Councilor Jackson Green?
Aye.
Councilor Remick?
Aye.
Councilor Ross Hammond?
Aye.
Councilor Rouse?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wilson? Aye. Mayor Dyer?
Aye.
11-0.
Okay, we're sent to close. And if we can rise for the invocation. Thank you all. Heavenly Father, you are always with us and beside us. Be with us this evening as we consider the affairs of our great city. Give us the patience to listen, the wisdom to decide, and the strength to act. Amen. And if I may ask for a moment of silence to honor all of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to protect our city and our nation. Thank you. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So welcome one, welcome all. Madam Clerk, do we have a roll call?
Yes, Your Honor, all present.
Okay, at this point, could I ask for a motion for the certification of the closed session?
So moved. Second.
All righty.
The vote is open. Vice Mayor Wilson, may I have your vote? Aye. Thank you. Thank you. By a vote of 11-0, you've certified the closed session to be in accordance with the motion to recess.
Okay, thank you. Now can we have the motion for the approval of the minutes of the informal and formal sessions of December 2nd, 2025, and the informal and formal sessions of December 9th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would have to abstain on the December 9th.
Yep. You were having fun on vacation.
I was.
Councilmember Cummings, if you would just vote aye, and then I will just note in the minutes that you're abstaining on the 9th.
Thank you.
By a vote of 11-0, noting Councilmember Cummings' abstention for December 9th minutes, you have approved the minutes as submitted.
Okay, at this point, we'll have a public hearing, and the option, and the only item is to change the polling locations for precinct 0002 and precinct 0108, change of central absentee precinct and relocate the office of the voter registrar in the Virginia Museum of Contemporary Arts, MoCA, to the Virginia Beach Medical School, the Gala 417 to All States Episcopal Church, and Virginia Beach Multiple Center 2449 Princess Anne Road, Building 14 to 500 Studio Drive. Any speakers?
No speakers.
Okay, at this point, are there anybody signed up for speakers on the agenda?
No, none for the regular agenda.
Okay, at this point, can we do the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Under ordinances and resolutions, number 1 is the ordinance to amend City Code Section 2-85, leave carryover. 2 is the ordinance to amend City Code Section 2-105, reemployment. Number 3 is the ordinance to authorize extension of the employment contract of the city manager requested by the City Council. Number 4 is a resolution to provide for the issuance and sale of general obligation public improvement bonds in the maximum amount of $163 million and provide for the form, details, and payment thereof, authorize public improvements. Number 5 is the ordinance to authorize 1 full-time pharmacist position with the FY 2025-26 Department of Emergency Medical Services EMS operating budget. Number 6, the ordinance to appropriate an additional $496,432 from the fund balance of the Chesapeake Colony Dredging Special Service District Special Revenue Fund to the FY 2025-26 Capital Improvement Program CIP for capital improvement 100-277 Chesapeake and Colony Neighborhood Dredging design costs. Number 7 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $25,283 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Development Services to the FY 2025-26 Human Services Operating Budget, forensic discharge planning programs. Number 8 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $10,203 from the Virginia Beach Police Foundation to the FY 2025-26 Police Department's operating budget, K-9 facility improvements. Number 9 is the ordinance to transfer $375,921 within the Department of Public Utilities from the Water and Sewer Enterprise and Reserve for contingencies to the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund operating budget, arbitrage rebate payments to the Internal Revenue Service for 2020 revenue bonds. Move for approval.
Do we have a second? Second. All right, any discussion? Let's open the vote.
The vote is open. By a vote of 11-0, you've approved the consent agenda as read by Vice Mayor Wilson.
Okay, do we have any appointments tonight? Any appointments?
No.
Okay. Okay, at this point, do we have any unfinished business? Any new business? Okay, we adjourn to open mic.